like, oh, and everybody on the right wing, oh, this is not the right decorum for somebody trying to run for president of the United States. But, how dare he? I mean, the other day he went on a reality show about some outdoor show involving a bear or something, and David Spade's like, oh, I think he's just trying to get in the spotlight, and this is not becoming of a president. And all the right-wingers are always constantly saying that he shouldn't go on late-night shows. This is your leader, Donald J. Troll! You're backing this guy! I mean, imagine if almost anyone else did it. Imagine Bernie Sanders sending out a tweet making fun of any other candidate picking his nose. Ain't nobody got time for that. Bernie Sanders is talking about policy. He's talking about how he's going to raise wages for the middle class. By the way, now Donald Trump got caught with his hand on the cookie jar. Bernie Sanders has been busting him up about, hey, you said we should lower wages, which Donald Trump definitely did in the Republican debates. Now he's like, yeah, no, I meant raise them. Yeah, that's popular, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, but yeah, raise them. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Sanders, you probably picked your nose. Okay, this bully slash troll. And we're not done. He's on a roll. And so he then retweets somebody else, says, word on the street is that Jeb Bush's mother is voting for the real Donald Trump. And then he adds his own words, so cute. He's such a dick. Okay. So now that's, of course, in reference to Barbara Bush saying, well before Jeb Bush decided to enter the race, hey, we had enough Bushes. We probably shouldn't run anymore. So that's why they're needling Jeb Bush on that. He's not done. He retweets, why do you keep trying to attack Trump? Really dumb strategy, referring to Jeb Bush. You lose, he wins. Let's make America great again. Which serious person retweets, running for president, you want to have fun, like I do it, somebody else does it, we're all having fun, we're pundits, we're media people, whatever the hell we are, right? You're running for commander-in-chief, you're going to retweet, you lose, I win. But there is one good side of Donald Trump's trolling, and that is that he's gotten the Republican voters to admit things that liberals would have never gotten them to admit. So here's another one he retweeted. Jeb Bush, we had your brother and father who were a disaster in office. Do us a favor and drop out in favor of Donald Trump. So progressives have been saying that George W. Bush is a disaster for a long time. But, we said it on the Young Turks the minute we got on the air back in 2002 as a radio show. We're like, that guy is a joke. He never should have been president. And don't go into Iraq. Now, of course, the Republicans at the time were furious. You're un-American. You're unpatriotic. How dare you? Salute the commander-in-chief. Have you no respect? And that lasted all the way through his presidency. But now, magically, Donald Trump says, yeah, George W. Bush, loser. Last Republican president for 8 years. Loser. And all the Republicans are like, yeah, that's right. Our last president was a loser. And the Republican president before that, loser. Yeah, Donald. What? So, on that, I guess we thank you, Donald Trump. I fear for our country. Okay. Who doesn't enjoy this look? Okay. Did I turn off my phone? I panicked there for a second. Okay, let's move on. I got one more and one last Trump story for you. So we've been showing you how there's been a lot of attacks against protesters in Donald Trump's rallies. First, a Latino guy was beat up as the crowd chanted USA. And then we had a black guy who was protesting on behalf of Black Lives Matter. He was beaten up and roughhoused, I guess is one way of putting it. That's putting it lightly. And another woman was slammed to the ground. Another Trump event goes on and on. And here we go again. Now, this time it's going to be a weird quasi-celebrity, but I guess that could also describe Donald Trump, who's a supporter of Donald Trump, who's going to go into the crowd and attack a couple of the protesters. Now, the articles say that he body slammed them. You're going to see now, he clearly assaults them. Luckily, it's not that bad. The guy at the end is smiling. But let's show you the video, then I'll tell you who it is and why it's still terribly wrong. Let's watch.
USA. USA, USA, USA.
Okay, now that was when Donald Trump was talking about how one of the local papers in New Hampshire had endorsed Chris Christie. So that's why I didn't understand why Chris Christie was in the crowd supporting him. Okay, fine, that wasn't Chris Christie. That was Todd the Punisher Holton. He's apparently a job description I heretofore did not recognize existed. Self-described celebrity boxer. Now, but wait. Understand what that means. He's not a celebrity who boxes. He's a boxer who boxes washed-up celebrities. That's a job? Okay. Fascinating. Unsurprisingly, he supports Donald Trump. So he has, in the past, taken on Jose Canseco. When Canseco was desperate for money, he took on former heavyweight champion James Bonecrusher Smith. And I don't know what happened in those matches. I have no idea, and I don't care at all. So he's got this giant green tattoo on his face. I don't know if that's because he's Irish. I don't know what he is, right? Now normally I like nicknames, but when you have a quasi-fascist running for president, and he has people that are supporting him called the Punisher, and they go assault people in the crowd who disagree with him, a little uncomfortable. Okay. Now, it could have been worse, I guess, because the cops actually got there in time to stop him from punching one of the guys involved. But there's a reason why there's security and police. You can't just attack protesters. And while vigilantes are doing that and calling themselves the Punisher, Trump can't now start the chant of USA, USA, USA. That's crazy. That's crazy. How is that guy not arrested? I don't understand. Time and time again, people in the crowd in Trump rallies assault people on tape. It's the most obvious thing in the world, and nobody ever arrests them. No, you don't get to assault those people. There is security and police who can escort them out. Yeah, we understand they can't interrupt forever. They made their point, and then security's going to take them out. But you can't jump in there and start throwing punches and push me. By the way, of course, the so-called Punisher, who's the main person he punished? It was an elderly man that he knocked over in the scuffle. Of course! Okay, now, that's the main story, but I watched just a little piece of the speech before this incident and after this incident. Once again, I'm flummoxed as to how anybody above the age of 7 could find this guy appealing. Listen to the first part of his speech.
There are certain words to describe what's happening with our country. And I used to say we're incompetently led. I gave up the word incompetent because it's really not good enough. What's the word we use? Stupid. Stupid.
I thought for a second that he was going to come up with a better word. He said, incompetent, not good enough. I was like, oh, really? What are we going to go for here? Better than incompetent? No. The word's stupid. Yeah, that's what, incompetent, too fancy. I understand you schmucks didn't understand it. You know what he is? Stupid. And then the crowd roars, yeah, they're stupid. They're stupid, not us. They're stupid. They applauded. What children? I'm not sure third graders would have applauded. Maybe. I mean, I know, like, kindergarten kids. Hey, he's not incompetent. He's stupid. And he farts. And the kids would laugh, right? Third graders, you're on the fence. Okay, now, but don't worry. He's going to save the country, it turns out. This is the ridiculously oversimplistic ending to that speech.
The American dream is dead. But I'm going to make it bigger and stronger, more powerful, more beautiful than ever. More beautiful than ever.
Oh, why didn't you tell me that from the beginning? Well, then, of course, I'm on your side. Because the American dream is going to be bigger and stronger. And it's going to be gorgeous. Almost like his daughter. You know, he keeps saying how he'd like to sleep with his daughter if she wasn't his daughter. It's going to be as beautiful as my hot daughter, you know what I'm saying? That's how hot the American dream is going to be. Please don't talk about America like she's a lady that you're interested in dating. And I can't believe Republicans gave Michelle Obama crap over, this is the first time I've been proud of my country. This guy keeps calling America dead. He's like, America's dead. America's miserable. It's a mess. It's a disaster. And the Republicans who claim to love America are like, yeah, America's a disaster, that's awesome, America's a mess, America's dead. And you're not supposed to cheer that, you were supposed to be on the other side of that debate. But these are the guys who give wild applause at, they're stupid. So I guess we can't be surprised at anything. If you're not disheartened yet at what an enormously high percentage of Americans have IQs so below the average, but it's just stunning. I'm sorry that I said that they have IQs that are below average. We're going to use a better word than that, okay, to be fair. I mean, that's an un-PC word. Americans who are stupid, stupid. Okay, I'm going forward. You know how we fix this, by the way? Wolf-pack.com. Can I see 400? Right before the show, 362 donors. We're trying to get to 500. We got a couple of days left before December runs out. Runs out. Okay, can I at least see 400, man? Wolf-pack.com/New Year. Let's go to the next story. Now, President Obama gets a lot of grief about many different things, certainly his foreign policy. And I'm told over and over by the Republicans that, he doesn't know what he's doing, he leads from behind, he's weak, he's ineffectual. So, for example, ISIS recently attacked the West in a couple of different ways. Obviously, we had the San Bernardino shooting, not connected to ISIS. ISIS didn't even take credit for it. But the people who did it said that they had some sort of allegiance towards ISIS, depending on however you want to count that. But ISIS didn't plan that attack. They did plan the Paris attack. Now over 130 people killed there. That was disastrous. So many more injured. And so maybe the Republicans are right. I mean, did he even get the guys who did the Paris attack? Well, it turns out the answer is, yeah, we just killed them. So I'm sure that the Republicans are going to give Obama credit any second now. So let's go to U.S. Army Colonel Steve Warren. He explains over the past month, we've killed 10 ISIL leadership figures with targeted airstrikes, including several external attack planners, some of whom are linked to the Paris attacks. Now, I take every Pentagon statement with a grain of salt. That seems a little vague, but then he got specific in a second that I'll share with you. But the Republicans don't take it with a grain of salt. They say, commanders on the ground are always right. So here's a commander on the ground saying, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we got it. He went on to say that others had designs on further attacking the West, and they were also taken out. Huffington Post further clarifies the Pentagon statement, saying one of those killed was Abdul Qadir Hakim, who facilitated the militants' external operations and had links to the Paris attack network. Warren said, that's that same Army colonel. Now, apparently, more details. A coalition airstrike on December 24th in Syria killed Charafi al-Muadan, a Syria-based Islamic State member with a direct link to Abdulhamid Aboud, the suspected ringleader of the coordinated bombings and shootings in Paris on November 13th, which killed 130 people, Warren said. So, okay, we got him. So I'm sure that the Republicans are now going to have a press conference saying, man, it turns out, our bad. Obama's a really strong leader. We talked about how he wasn't bombing him. It turns out he dropped 9,000 bombs on him, and some of them killed leaders in the Paris attacks. Job well done. Mission accomplished. Way to go, Obama. Or can I just get a thanks? Oh, no. No thanks on that. Interesting. Well, let's go to the case of Ebola. Another thing that President Obama was horribly criticized for. Oh, my God, we ain't getting factual. That's Ebola spreading like wildfire all across the world and in the United States. Now, to be fair, the first case of Ebola did come out on September 20th of 2014 in the U.S., and when was the last case where the patient was cleared to leave the hospital and we didn't have any Ebola after that? Well, that must have been many, many years later, right? No, it was on November 12th, 2014. So less than 2 months later, wiped out in the United States. Now, again, Huffington Post here explains, hysteria gripped the United States after the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed a case of Ebola in Dallas, but coverage soon slipped from newspaper front pages and cable news broadcasts. Oh, you know why? Because we actually solved the problem. And it's a big news event led by Fox News when there is a problem. Oh, it's Obama's fault. Thanks, Obama. And then when the government led by President Obama, actually solves the problem, let's stop talking about that, okay? Everybody move along. And does CNN ever come back and go, oh, by the way, remember that 24/7 coverage we were doing on Ebola, led by Fox News, we were led around like this, by Roger Ailes, because we're a bunch of morons? Did they come back and go, sorry, our bad, let's correct the record. The doctors in America did a wonderful job. The NIH in America did a wonderful job. The government in America did a wonderful job. President Obama did a wonderful job. And there is no Ebola in the United States anymore. No. Well, today there's more news. Turns out Ebola is pretty much wiped off the planet for now. Of course, you always have to be vigilant. But one of the last countries that had not yet freed itself of Ebola did so today. Guinea, one of the countries hit by the worst outbreak of Ebola, has been declared free of any cases of the deadly virus. By the way, who helped in that effort? International health agencies. Some from the United Nations. Can I get a thank you? Can I get an amen? The world, that was very smooth, guys. I was going to tell you about the World Bank, but I wanted to say one other group. Well, sad day. Okay. So, one other group wound up helping that, sometimes is maligned by not just the right, but the left as well. The World Bank. So this is a big international effort to declare, to defeat Ebola. And the World Bank alone provided $250 million in financing to Guinea to combat the epidemic. That's just $250 million to one country. So, what wound up happening eventually is the world worked together, health organizations, doctors, scientists. Oh, and by the way, medical missionaries, Christian missionaries, who were some of the bravest heroes in this fight. They go across the world to help people as well. That to me is a true Christian who goes and helps the needy. In fact, one of them I made the Turk of the Year last year, so about a year ago today, obviously. And so all these people work together. It turns out, yes, world organizations do work. Yes, science works. Yes, medicine works. And yes, sometimes, perhaps even oftentimes, the government works. So can I get a thanks, Obama? Okay, here's basically what the U.S. government, the U.S. media in response. Look, it's perfectly fair to point out the criticisms, and we do, the Obama administration and the government. But you got to give credit where credit is due, and you have to be fair. And so, whether it's the Paris attacks or Ebola, I don't see any fairness in the U.S. media. And I don't see anyone giving the U.S. government, international organizations, or President Obama any credit. Well, as much as we've criticized him, we got to give him credit because he deserves it here. Young Turks.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United!
We are!
We are!
Too strong! We can stop this. There's thousands of volunteers, and you could be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com. All right, back on the Young Turks. Can I see 400? Can I see 400 members at wolf-pack.com/New Year? Go for it. Let's do it. A couple of tweets here. Roar says, Trump's Twitter isn't that different from a lot of Jenks trolls, to be honest. I didn't say it. Do I have trolls that follow me around?
He's not a drummer.
Never heard of it. Kay says, Trump has made me do the unthinkable. Feel bad for Jeb Bush. I hear you, Kay. Then Rudolph says, I hate that USA has become a channel of racism and bigotry. Just kidding, so I don't want to hear patriotic songs on the 4th of July anymore. Ruth, I'm with you. I hate that they co-opted it, but I'm not going to let them. Don't worry. We're going to fight back. These colors behind me don't run. So I still love those goofy patriotic songs. Born and we do it well. That's not it. You see my point. says Trump would make a fantastic spokesman for Viagra. Think about it for a second. I think he's got a great point. It used to be dead. It was a mess. It was a disaster. Now it's strong and bold and beautiful. Excellent point, El Duende. Bingo. Okay, we move forward. Okay. This is devastating stuff. Just when you thought ISIS couldn't get any worse, they have put out guidelines for how to rape your sex slaves. Now, they put these out a while back in January of this year, but it was discovered back in May by our forces and then recently released to the press, including Reuters, and Reuters writes about it. First of all, in case if you're wondering if is it propaganda, and now in the midst of war, there's often propaganda. In the case of ISIS, they do their own propaganda against themselves. They're proud of it, and they flaunt it. And it's not just the U.S. saying this. In fact, the United Nations and human rights groups have accused the Islamic State of systematic abduction and rape of thousands of women and girls as young as 12. Now, I give you that backup just because the story is so unbelievable that you think, like, really, could this possibly be true? But yes, the UN, human rights groups, the U.S., everyone who's looked at it, the media, agrees. So they explain that Islamic State theologians have issued an extremely detailed ruling on when owners of women enslaved by the extremist group can have sex with them in an apparent bid to curb what they call violations in the treatment of captured females. So understand why they put this fatwa out in the first place. Very specific, fatwa number 64. Because not only were they taking sex slaves and raping them, but they were apparently committing violations within the rape. I don't even want to know what those violations are. So they had to put out this edict saying, hey, rape your sex slaves right. That's what I told you it was unbelievable, right? So let me give you more details to show you how grotesque it is. Reuters explains, and they got to look at the documents, among the religious rulings are bans on a father and a son having sex with the same female slave, and the owner of a mother and a daughter having sex with both. Joint owners of a female captive are similarly enjoined from intercourse because she's viewed as part of a joint ownership. So, I mean, if you own the same sex slave, you got to have rules, right? I mean, who's going to have sex, when, etc. Can a dad and a son have sex with the same female slave? When you got to clarify this, I think you might be in a world of disaster, and that's exactly where ISIS is. Now, on Fatwa 64, there's direct quotes here. They explain, if the owner of a female captive who has a daughter suitable for intercourse has sexual relations with the latter, he is not permitted to have intercourse with her mother, and she's permanently off limits to him. Should he have intercourse with her mother, then he is not permitted to have intercourse with her daughter, and she is to be off limits to him. Basically, they're saying, like, are we not reasonable here? I mean, come on. If you've got two sex slaves, you've got to either rape the daughter or the mother. You can't rape both. Oh, yeah. And again, the father and the son, that's the next graphic here, can't have same sex with the same female slave. They've got to pick different female slaves to rape. And Reuters further explains that far from trying to conceal the practice, the Islamic State has boasted about it and established a department of, quote, war spoils to manage slavery. Now, what's not talked about often in history is that historically, unfortunately, rape was an enormous part of war for most of human history. So part of the spoils of war was, okay, now we're going to go conquer that city, and then all of you who help conquer it get to rape all the women in, and then we kill untold numbers of people, we massacre them, we move on with our lives. But the rest of humanity has largely moved on from that, and we don't do that anymore. The rest of us call that enormous progress, whereas ISIS thinks, hey, let's go back to those times. And apparently that still appeals to some people. The reason they boast about it is because this is part of how they get their recruits. Don't worry, if you come here, we'll let you rape people. I can't believe this is still happening in 2015. So now, in an April report, Human Rights Watch interviewed 20 female escapees who recounted how Islamic State fighters separated young women and girls from men and boys and older women. They were moved in an organized and methodical fashion to various places in Iraq and Syria. They were then sold or given as gifts and repeatedly raped or subjected to sexual violence. So I'm just giving you this as further evidence. This is now Human Rights Watch saying we actually interviewed the women who went through this. So it's just amazing that this is happening in today's world. The fatwa also instructs owners of female slaves to, quote, show compassion towards her, be kind to her, not humiliate her, and not assign her work she's unable to perform. Oh, are they not merciful? After you've raped her, be relatively kind to her and don't give her tasks she can't perform. Outside of the rape, of course. Okay, and finally, in their infinite mercy, they also say, an owner should also not sell her to an individual whom he knows will mistreat her. So the rape and the sexual slavery is not the mistreatment, but if on top of that you stub her toe, well, that's a bad guy, and hey, don't give your sex slave to him to have as a sex slave if he's going to mistreat her like that. Again, it's amazing that they think that makes sense. They're like, oh yeah, hey man, I'm so glad you put out that fatwa number 64, because we didn't know whether we were treating or mistreating the sex slaves that we had. Okay, now it's clear. No, not the mom and the daughter. Okay, I got it. I didn't know, my bad. A lot of people will then take this and say, well, that is Sharia law and that's the Quran. Well, a lot of Islamic religious scholars jump out and say that is not the case. Professor Abdul Fattah Al-Awari says and he's the Dean of Islamic Theology at Al-Azhar University, that's a 1,000-year-old Egyptian Center for Islamic Learning, said that the Islamic State has nothing to do with Islam and was deliberately misreading centuries-old verses, saying that were originally designed to end rather than encourage slavery. Now, I got a verse from the Quran you're going to get to judge for yourself in a second, but at least there's a respected Islamic center saying, don't do this, this is the opposite of the Quran. In fact, in September of 2014, obviously this is before this fatwa came out, more than 120 Islamic scholars from around the world issued an open letter to Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, refuting the group's religious arguments to justify many of its actions. The scholars noted that, quote, the reintroduction of slavery is forbidden in Islam. Now, look, they have a case to make, as always. The religious texts are a mess. In one part they say go ahead and do it, other part they say definitely don't do it. So I'm going to quote a part of the Quran here, 3350. It says, O Prophet, we have made lawful to thee thy wives to whom thou hast paid their dowers, and those slaves whom thy right hand possesses out of the prisoners of war whom Allah has assigned to thee. So now there's a section of the Quran that could be interpreted in favor of slavery. Now, there are other parts that might be interpreted otherwise, and obviously there's a disagreement here. The overwhelming majority of Muslim scholars say, no, it's supposed to end slavery. But look, the fact that they interpret it in a positive way, great, I'll take it. The fact that ISIS is interpreted in a disastrous way is unfortunate. That's why I'm not religious. That's why I'm against the religions. Because I don't like that it gives you an opportunity to head in a terrible direction. And before Christians and other religions get a little smug on this, let me quote the Bible for you. Titus 2:9-10. Slaves are to be submissive to their own masters in everything. They are to be well-pleasing, not argumentative, not pilfering, but showing all good faith, so that in everything they may adorn the doctrine of God our Savior. Now, it's not like these quotes in the Bible were never used. They were used against the slaves we held here in the United States. Christians use this over and over to subjugate slaves, and yes, to rape slaves, and to justify it using their religious texts. Now, the good news is we got past that. It took a bloody civil war to do it, and it was some 150 years ago. So, yes, it is in all texts. Yes, it even talks about sex slaves. In fact, here, let me give you Leviticus 19:20, Old Testament. It applied to Judaism as well as Christianity. If a man lies sexually with a woman who is a slave, assigned to another man, and not yet ransomed or given her freedom, a distinction shall be made. They shall not be put to death, because she was not free. I mean, if you got a sex slave, of course you're not going to put someone to death for raping her. She was a slave. So it is in all of our texts. Yes, there are other wonderful parts of the text, both in the Bible and the Quran. And yes, the majority of Christians and the majority of Muslims take the better parts. But some do not. That is why the texts are often dangerous, besides which they're wrong, so if we can get past them, that would be wonderful. But overall here we have a group still on this planet who are taking them very literally. Yes, there are literalists in Christianity who believe that Armageddon would be wonderful, where God creates a genocide that kills almost 7 billion people. They look forward to that because they think they're going to be spared and get sucked up into Jesus' vacuum. Yes, there are fundamentalist Jews and Hindus and Buddhists. We've talked about all of those on the show. But this group has captured land. They've got a significant portion of Syria and Iraq, and they're doing sex slaves right now. So this is among the reasons, obviously, we fight against them. Now, how you fight against them is a different topic altogether. Even as vicious and horrible as they are, we've got to be smart in fighting against them. We can't let your emotions run away and go, oh, just bomb them, bomb everybody down there. Because the slaves that they took and are raping are also down there. So let's be smart in how we fight back against them. Okay. Now, we go from, unfortunately, horrors across the world to horrors here in the U.S. Okay. So yesterday, a grand jury refused to indict the police officers involved in shooting and killing Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old with a toy gun. Now, that's because Tim McGinty, the prosecutor, threw the case and bragged about throwing the case. He told the grand jury, which is unprecedented, that they should not indict. The whole point of a prosecutor going in front of a grand jury is to get an indictment. He presented witnesses not on behalf of the victim, but on behalf of the defendants. Unheard of. I literally never heard of it until a crop of corrupt prosecutors in this country decided that no matter what cops do, no matter who they murder, they were going to protect them at all costs because they figured that would help their political careers. So we've seen it all across the country now, and McGinty's the latest one to do it. But there is an extra twist to this story. Ohio is an open carry state. What does that mean? Well, let's go to Charles Pierce in Esquire. He explains Ohio is an open carry state, so even if the cops assumed Rice was 18, and they also assumed his gun was real, they had no cause even to stop him, let alone open fire. Now, look, we've had pictures on the show, we'll have them for you in a second, too. White people, sometimes Latinos, carrying guns, assault rifles in Walmarts, wherever the hell they want. Nobody ever gets shot. Now, you got a 12-year-old with a toy gun here, but, he made the mistake of being black. So, I'm going to show you the video one last time here. Look, he's shot in 2 seconds flat, and remember, it's an open carry state. If it was a real gun, he'd have every right to have that gun. Nonetheless, this is what they did to him. He's in a park where kids usually are. It's in Cleveland. They got a report. The 911 person knew that it could have been a toy gun. He didn't pass that along. She didn't pass that along, to be fair. Cops get there. Instead of pulling up on the street, they decided to pull right up to him. They didn't ask him any questions. They didn't say, is that a gun? Is that a toy gun? Hey, what's going on? Hey, drop it. As one writer said, they did not give him an opportunity to live. 2 seconds flat. But I see white people with assault rifles everywhere. I see them in front of mosques. I see them trying to intimidate Black Lives Matter protesters. In fact, some of them shot Black Lives Matter protesters. I see white people who then use that gun, not only against the Black Lives Matter, but they go into Planned Parenthoods and kill people, including cops. But no, they got rights. They got Second Amendment rights. Second Amendment rights. How do you got a 12-year-old with a toy gun? He doesn't have any rights. He has the right to get murdered in 2 seconds flat, and then the cops get away with it. Okay, now, more details on Ohio's laws. Ohio, for instance, allows open carry without a permit virtually anywhere, with a major exception for keeping a gun in a car, which requires a concealed carry permit. Now, Tamir Rice, obviously not in a car. He can carry his toy gun anywhere, let alone a real gun. Well, he's not alone. John Crawford was also shot dead with a toy gun, also in Ohio. He was in a Walmart. Cops get a call. Now, yesterday on the program, I said they shot him and killed him in 6 seconds. That's true. You're about to see the video. It took 6 seconds for them to kill him. It took them 1 second to shoot him initially. Okay, they shot at him within 1 second. Now, remember, if this is a real gun, in Ohio, he has every right to carry it. And there's no one near him. It's not like there's other shoppers and he's pointing the gun at them or anything. And of course, it's not a real gun. It's a BB gun. All right, now watch the video. So there's Crawford. He picked up one that wasn't packaged. He's been lying around in that store for 2 years. He puts the gun down. They're shooting at him. He puts the gun down. Okay, the non-gun, by the way, the toy gun. He comes back. Hey, not necessarily to pick up the gun. Maybe the cop thought he was going to pick up the gun, but he didn't pick up the gun. He had his hands up, and it doesn't matter. Shot dead. Shot dead. You have every right to carry a gun openly in Ohio, unless you're black, in which case the cops will shoot at you within 1 to 2 seconds and murder you within at least 6 seconds. What happened? I thought everybody had a Second Amendment right. What happened? I thought we all had the rights. Oh, you meant just white people. And if you know the history of the Second Amendment, you would know that this is actually the point of the Second Amendment, at least in regards to the South. In the South, their militias were called, they had another name, slave patrols. The slave patrols were so that white people could be armed so they could shoot black people. You think black people had a right? Well, according to the Second Amendment, it says people, ignore the part about the militia, right? But people have a right to bear arms. The African-American people have rights to bear arms? No. They were slaves. They were the ones getting shot. You see how much things have changed. So, more explanation for Fox. They say misuse of a firearm is definitely grounds for formal police intervention, but not mere possession. Now, when white people walk around with guns, that's not misusing it. When black people have toy guns that they're pointing down, and there's no one anywhere near them, misuse of a toy gun, murder. Okay. But then there's this question. They say the legal question for the officers involved in these shootings isn't whether Crawford and Rice had a right to carry a gun in public, but whether they reasonably believed the reported threats were still present up to the moment they shot Crawford and Rice. Well, isn't that neat? See, to me, that's even worse. So they're saying, yeah, you got a right to carry a weapon, but if the police perceive you as a threat, they have a right to kill you. Lo and behold, they don't perceive white people as a threat. They perceive black people as a threat. Even if they have toy guns, even if they're 12 years old. The prosecutor, not the cops charged, the prosecutor. And Tamir Rice said, oh, I mean, he looked so much older, and and he was a big kid. So of course so we thought he was a threat. Come on. He said it was reasonable to think that 12-year-old was a threat because he looked so much larger. By the way, when they did a study on college campuses, they asked young white women to estimate the age of young black males over the age of 10. On average, they guessed 4.5 years older than the kids actually were. And they rated them as more threatening than white kids. They were just pictures. Nobody was threatening. Nobody was anything. Based on race. Oh, I don't know. They look old. They look threatening. They're black. Oh, I can reasonably perceive that they should be murdered. God damn it, it shouldn't be like this. Okay, here's another example. By putting police officers through a video game simulation, Josh Carell of the University of Colorado Boulder found cops generally pull the trigger more quickly against black suspects than white suspects when the suspect was seen carrying a weapon. Now, I know people don't want to admit it. They're like, no way. There's no racism in America. No way. But we do the studies. It shows it. Cops see a black person, they shoot quicker. And you just saw the videos. Now, if you look here, I'll just give you a couple of white pictures here. P1 through P3, okay? These are guys in the country. Most of the states in this country have open carry, okay? Look at that giant weapon. That's in Walmart. John Crawford got shot at a Walmart with a toy gun. They have real weapons, assault rifles that they carry around. They're packing. They got lolly. It's their clothing and the way they look. It's not just their race. That guy's got tattoos all over him. I mean, it's not like he's in a business suit. Nothing wrong with tattoos, but you hold it against black people. But when it's white people, I mean, he's got tattoos and he's dressed in the same way as black people, and he's got an actual weapon. But what? But he's white. Why don't you just say it? So, if you defend the rights of these wonderful people to have their real guns everywhere, yet you think cops should shoot at black people and black kids within 1 to 2 seconds if they think they might have a gun and they don't even bother asking them, well, then you might be a racist. So just get used to it, okay? That's what you are. Because I know, you're so deeply offended. But when it comes to white people, they get them guns. They get them guns. But they're okay. Black people, shoot him dead. Shoot him dead. That cop was right. That cop was reasonable. That cop was right. Wait, why are you defending a cop? I thought you loved the Second Amendment, right wingers. I thought you were all about the Second Amendment. If Tamir Rice had a gun and was twirling it around or carrying it around with him, oh yeah, well he shouldn't because he's 12. But they said they thought he looked 18. They thought he looked like an adult. Shouldn't they have said, oh, you are a good, law-abiding American citizen having your Second Amendment rights in this public square? There's nobody around you. They're not threatening anybody. In the Walmart, nobody around them. But if you're black, you're dead. If you're white, then you have your Second Amendment rights. If you think that, whether you recognize it or not, you're a goddamn racist. Okay. Okay, now, let me give you more depressing news about the state of police in America. So I'm told that the cops are in grave danger. We'll see if that's true in this story. And unprecedented danger. I mean, all these Black Lives Matter protesters are chanting. Now, you got right-wingers like Robert Deere going and actually killing cops in Planned Parenthood. You've got the guys who in Vegas killed a couple of cops on purpose and then put the "Don't Tread on Me" flag on them. They did that. They targeted cops. I don't hear that on Fox News. So those are real threats against cops, but they're never talked about. But overall, are cops in danger? Well, we'll find out in a second. Do they put other people in danger? Hell yes. So let me give you the numbers on that. While numbers vary from source to source, the Washington Post cites 975 times that cops killed people in this country this year alone, while The Guardian puts the tally at 1,125. The website killedbypolice.net found that police have killed 1,186 people in 2015. The U.S. government currently does not track how many people are killed in the police in police encounters. They don't track it because they don't want to know it. Don't ask, don't tell. So, about 1,000 people shot by cops. They just had to do it. Many of them were unarmed, shockingly, and a lot of them were minorities. So let's show you some of the numbers. First of all, here's 2014 versus 2015. So the number of people being killed is higher. Well, maybe there's a higher crime rate. We'll get to that in a second, too. The answer, by the way, is no, there is not a higher crime rate. Male or female? Well, we often talk about black or white. Well, you're most in danger if you're a male. 90% of the people killed are males. So keep it real on that front. Now, more white people are killed overall, but when you realize that whites are about 3/4 of the country, they're still disproportionately in better shape. In fact, if you take all the minorities, more minorities are killed than white people, even though they're only 1/4 of the country. Now, we'll get back to the exact numbers on whether it is disproportionate against minorities in a second, but now let's go to the issue of, hey, wait a minute, now, maybe the cops had to kill all these people because they're in unprecedented danger. That's what Fox News tells me. So let's go to some of the sources here. The Officer Down Memorial page, which tracks police officer deaths, estimates 123 police officers died in the line of duty up to this point in 2015. That's actually down 4% from the same time period in 2014. Gunfire deaths, in particular, are at 36, down 22% from the same time period last year. Now, most of the deaths of cops happen in car accidents. So they're counting those in that 123 number. When you take away the car accidents and other accidents like that, and you're just talking about gun deaths, it's 36 cops killed. They kill over 1,000. There's only 36 cops killed. It's near historic lows. In fact, the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund reported that on-duty police fatalities in 2014 totaled 117, up from a historic low of 107 in 2013, but down nearly 60% from a peak of 280 in 1974. So these last couple of years have been historic lows for cops getting killed. Fantastic. That's great news. But if you go and tell me, oh, the cops are in unprecedented danger, you are factually incorrect. It's not a matter of debate, it's a matter of numbers, and it's the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund that's telling you that. Okay? So if you don't like facts, go argue with the Memorial Fund for cops who are killed and tell them, I don't like your stinking facts. And what do you want, more cops to be killed? So the fact that cops getting killed has come down 60% in the last 40 years is wonderful. But it also should mean maybe they shouldn't shoot so many other people, because they're actually not in nearly the danger they think they are. Although their training says you can get killed any second. Any second. You're about to get killed. You're about to get killed. Shoot first. Whatever you do, shoot first. And then, lo and behold, we have over 1,000 people killed. Now, you might say, hey, listen, maybe they're not getting killed. But the crime rate overall, we live in dangerous times. Wrong again, Bob. Violent crime rates in the U.S. dropped by roughly 49% between 1994 and 2014, according to FBI data. So the crime rate is also at historic lows. So it is not because the cops are in danger. It's not because there's more violence and more crime in today's America. It is because they are trained to shoot first and ask questions later because they don't want to take any risk with their well-being at all. I mean, God forbid you could trip and twist your ankle. We wouldn't want that. Just shoot the citizens first, and then we'll figure out if any of them were guilty later. But don't worry about it. The prosecutors are on your side. They'll make the case for you, and you'll never face any justice. So now, is it disproportionately black people? Well, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention compiled data which shows that people of color are most likely to be killed by cops overall. Okay. But by how much? Get a load of this. As Think Progress noted last year, young black men are 21 times more likely to be killed by cops than young white men, according to a ProPublica analysis. Is it disproportionate? Yeah, just by a little bit. Young black males, 21 times more likely to be killed by cops than young white males. If you still want to deny it and say, oh no, they had it coming, or it's their culture, it's this, the cops are always right, they're always reasonable when they shoot black people. You might want to look in the mirror if you're trying to figure out what's wrong with this country. Gee, I wonder if there's still any racism left in the country. No, there's no such thing as white privilege. Well, of course you don't know that it exists because you didn't get shot. But they did. That's why they know it and you don't know it. These are the facts. Get used to it so we can actually begin to fix it if you're a decent human being and care to fix it. Young Turks. They failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was bad.
Jake Uger, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, hit up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Jake the Turk Uger.
I think a TV station this says.
The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It's right out of like Wayne's World. This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world. We're celebrating our 1 billionth view. We're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment. And Phil and host beat CNN headline news goodbye. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a long lesson. Shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can support him. He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media.
The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, it'd be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it.
Great movie or the greatest movie ever made in the history of cinema?
I love this movie.
Oh, that was great! Oh, damn.
I was just totally dazzled in every way.
What the hell was that? It was insane. Cut. Shut up, movie.
It just fails on like every single level.
Michael Bay.
It is so rapid fire.
Terrifying. Garbage. Nuts. That was just ridiculous. Was it written by ABBA?
He's pulling strings like Yo-Yo Ma.
You'll pay for the whole scene, but you'll only use the end.
We have Alright, back on the Young Turks. Gonna read some tweets now. Unfortunately, we start with sex slave tweets, so it's kind of a depressing topic. But Little Big Man says, please don't tell me you're that naive, Jake. Most of the world doesn't openly rape as part of war. Our soldiers rape their own. Emily Vandermeulen backs him up, says, if anyone believes American soldiers or any soldiers from the West never commit rape, you're kidding yourselves. Now, that's not true. Of course, our soldiers have committed rape as well. One recently got prosecuted for it. It was gruesome, raped an underage girl and killed her and others. So, we've had the stories, of course, of our own soldiers getting drugged and then raped by their male counterparts, and then the government covers it up, right? So, yes, those stories exist. But the U.S. Army does not put out a manual called Manual Number 64 on how to rape your sex slaves. So is there a distinction? Yes. That doesn't mean the U.S. doesn't do anything wrong, but there is a significant and very large distinction. Now, I think DMOR315 made a better point, honestly. He said, just for the record, in recent years, Joseph Kony and the Lord's Republican Army used the Bible for rape justification. So, yes. So it's not like there are no Christians doing it. Yes, there's been instances of it in the U.S. and the West. We don't condone it. But yes, there are even parties, that are horrible and the exception, but that use the Bible to justify rape. But remember, ISIS is also horrible and an exception. They don't represent 1.6 billion people. 1,200 Muslim scholars say that it is unacceptable, right? So, all right. So now, let me go to some others. Lindsay Somerville says about the Tamir Rice story. I'm pretty sure helping a killer walk makes Tim McGinty far more dangerous than Tamir Rice ever was. That's hard to refute. There's a story in Second Hour about a prosecutor who does the opposite, who takes someone who's innocent and locks him up for life, possibly, allegedly, as we'll get to that story in a little bit. And your mama says, NRA is still preparing that press release against cops shooting all the black people for carrying an imaginary weapon. Yeah, NRA, where are you? Where are you, Mr. Second Amendments? Open carry, open carry. You got black people all across the country who are being shot with toy guns. If they had real guns, or toy guns, shouldn't you be supporting them? They have their Second Amendment rights. They weren't threatening anyone. Where are you, NRA? Oh, nowhere. That's weird. Okay, and then finally, David says, what part of a well-regulated militia is wearing flip-flops in a Walmart? So one of the pictures we showed of white people carrying assault rifles is, they got their flip-flops on. Yeah, they seem really I think that's how they were, though, back in the day, When Washington put down that militia up in the north, they were all in flip-flops.
Right. True.
Okay, all right. Anna, what do you got for us?
All right. 18-year-old Ethan Couch, the so-called affluenza teen who fled his own probation, has been caught in Mexico with his mother. Now, initial reports of this indicated that since he violated his probation, he was going to face 10 years behind bars. But now it turns out that if he is convicted of doing anything wrong, he will only face a whopping 120 days behind bars. And I'll give you the details on that in just a second. I'll give you the details on that in just a second. Now, let me give you the details on how he got caught. It all started when a Snapchat video of him was leaked, or allegedly of him was leaked, showing him playing beer pong, or at least being present when others were playing beer pong. That violates his probation, and if he violates his probation, he's going to serve more time, or is going to finally serve some time behind bars. His mother knew that. Cops are saying that once the mother realized that this would happen, she threw a party for him at home, kind of a last party before they would flee, and then they fled to Mexico, where they were caught in Puerto Vallarta. He was detained Monday in the Mexican Pacific resort town of Puerto Vallarta along with his mother. It's believed that Couch may have violated his probation by skipping town earlier this month after he was tied to a video that surfaced online and may show him drinking. That's a violation of his probation. You guys get that point.
Okay, so then he had that clever disguise that you're seeing in the graphic behind us.
He dyed his hair. He used to be blonde. He dyed his hair dark, thinking that he would be able to evade the authorities. What's incredible is that you can't get away with crimes by fleeing to Mexico. The movies aren't true.
So, look, in the old days, back in 1878, you can flee to Mexico and get away with it. You know why? Because nobody was going to bother chasing your ass down there. But very rarely did it happen, and they're not going to find you in the middle of Mexico. These days, we extradite people.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course they're going to find you. It's not that complicated, especially when you're hanging out in I was going to say an escort. Interesting. In a resort in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, a resort that American tourists frequent, which means that since you were a high-profile case, a lot of people might recognize you.
Dude, even Captain Steuben goes there. Okay, so, but this idiot probably thought, like, no, I dyed my hair black. They're probably going to think I'm Mexican.
No one's going to know. Now, it's unclear how authorities caught them, but it turns out that the reason why they were detained initially is because they were in Mexico without the proper documentation.
Oh, isn't that ironic?
It's so incredible. Okay, so he gets caught, his mom gets caught. His mom is now facing charges for helping him flee the country, and she could face 10 years in prison. However, he's only facing 120 days because of the following, okay? And this was just reported. So he's still on probation, but it's being handled by the juvenile system, okay? So because of that, they would only be able to put him in detention until his 19th birthday in April, at which point he would have to be released. The remainder of his 10 years of probation would then roll over to adult court, but at that point he'll already be free.
Okay, and then he'll run away to, Cancun and be like, I made it! Okay, so we'll see what happens to him as an adult. We still don't even know if he's actually going to be put in jail at this point.
Right.
You never know, he might claim affluenza again. By the way, ironically, now all of a sudden he has a case. Because he's like, no, you're not getting it. I really don't understand the consequences of my action. I thought if I just moseyed down to Mexico and hung out at Puerto Vallarta, I'd get away with it. Yeah, you might really not understand your actions. And the original affluenza case was my parents were so rich and I was so rich that they showed me you can get away with anything if you're rich enough. And so here's his mom reinforcing that. So if I was his defense attorney, I'd be like, look, his mom did it again.
Yep.
See, affected the kid thinking he can get away with it because his mom escorted him down there. Now, if I was the judge, would I listen to that bullshit? Of course not, right? But the mom here, I can't say enough bad things about her.
She's a terrible person.
Not only are you a terrible person who are aiding and abetting all sorts of things. I mean, 4 people got killed in the original accident. Like, don't you have any conscience about that?
Nope.
Don't you feel bad about that?
Nope.
Okay, but then to throw a party for your kid before you run away to Mexico, and forget about what a bad person she is for a second. Think about how profoundly stupid she is. Oh yeah, I'll make a getaway. Didn't you Google extradition at all? You probably have no idea what the word means.
No.
But it's okay. I'm told by the right wing all the time that the rich earn their wealth,
Right.
and that's why they should have their tax cuts lower. That's their money, and you shouldn't touch it because they're so much better than us.
They are. They're smarter than us. They work harder than us, and that's why she didn't Google extradition treaties and figure out which countries have treaties with us.
Let's talk about another layer of stupidity here. You idiot! It was going to be really hard to prove that was you in the video, and you don't even see you drinking in the video. But what do? They panic.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my god, you got away with killing 4 people before. You can't get away from a Snapchat video? You're so dumb! And then when you run, though, you automatically violate your probation because you're not supposed to leave that area. So then, by definition, even without the video, we can put you away. And then you ran away, which kind of shows guilt. I can't believe they hatched this plan. And everybody was like, oh, man, I didn't think about Puerto Vallarta. That's a great idea. Let's do it.
Well, I'm glad they're idiots, and I'm glad they got caught. My guess is they panicked over the video because there was more evidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's openly going out there and violating his probation, getting drunk, doing things that he's not supposed to do, other people are going to leak information about him, right? It's not that hard to find him guilty of violating his probation. So I think it's easy for him to get caught. What I just don't understand is how they really didn't think that authorities would find them in Mexico or that they wouldn't be extradited to the U.S. But that's eventually what happened. And even through all of this, the most time he's going to spend behind bars is 120 days. Keep in mind, there are over or more than 3,000 people in the United States right now that are serving life sentences without the chance of parole for non-violent offenses. Okay, and this guy, because his family had the resources to get him the best attorneys, was able to literally get away with murder.
Look, then you got Tamir Rice shot dead in 2 seconds when he had a toy gun. This guy killed 4 people. They're like, oh, maybe we can give him 120 days after he ran away to Mexico to try to evade justice. Oh, okay, man. Well, there's equal justice in America. I see it. And then finally, I've got to ask a silly question. Can I see his picture one more time? How high is he in this picture?
We don't know if he's high.
Okay.
It could just be a bad picture. I've taken pictures where I look high, but I'm not high. And I've taken pictures where I am high and I look fucking awesome.
And all right, good for you. Okay, but look, I don't know, man. I'm going to say more unacceptable things. In the picture, he looks like such a dick, right? Like I wish he was high, which then is that's fine, dude. He's baked, right?
Yeah.
He looks like, I don't care, man. I gotta have one. And that mom is the world's worst parent. If I thought my kid had done this, other than being like broken-hearted about the 4 people who died, and I'd tell the kid the rest of our lives we're gonna make penance for that in any way that we can, right? But on top of that, your kid could go to prison for 10 years if he violates probation. I mean, we'll see what happens to him when he's an adult, etc. Wouldn't you want to, I'd be like, no, you're not violating your probation in any way, shape, or form. The whole country hates you. Everybody's going to be looking at to see if you violated your probation. You're not allowed to drink. She throws a fucking party for him.
Yeah. Well, again, going back to what you said early on, you're right. If ever there was a way for them to prove their defense in the initial court case, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
How can you have an understanding of consequences when that's your mother?
The defense should be purely put the mom on the stand and be like, this is the jackass I have for a mom. I mean, what'd you expect?
Yeah. All right. Moving on. A Glee star has been arrested for possession of child pornography. The man in question is Mark Salling, who played Puck in the show. And the LAPD's Internet Crimes Against Children unit obtained a search warrant on Tuesday morning for a home in Sunland, California. Officers found hundreds of images on his computer. He paid an ex-girlfriend more than $2.7 million in March after she accused him of knocking her to the ground when she confronted him over an alleged sexual battery. So he's had some issues with the law previously, and now things have gotten really bad because that same girlfriend that he paid off or settled with out of court allegedly tipped authorities off to the fact that he enjoyed child pornography.
Okay, so super happy he got caught on the child porn stuff. Now, normally, when a girlfriend or a boyfriend is snooping in on someone else in the relationship, that's super uncool. This is obviously the most clear exception to that rule.
Right.
When you find child porn, and endangering kids,
Yeah.
go ahead and report that.
Well,
right?
to be fair, I don't know if she was snooping around and she found it. Who knows?
Maybe you left it lying around.
That's right. We have no idea how she obtained that evidence or how she tipped cops off, but she's the person who did, and I'm glad that they did the investigation. To give you some more details in the alleged sex crime that he settled out of court for, apparently in 2011, Roxanne Gorzella claimed he forced her to have unprotected sex, and then when she confronted him several days later, he pushed her to the ground, injuring her knees, which is why he's spent $2.7 million to settle it out of court. TMZ reported that an ex-girlfriend tipped off the cops, forcing them to investigate before the raid to check it wasn't for revenge.
So, yeah, that's the important part, right? So the cops aren't going in there based on the ex-girlfriend being like, oh, I didn't like the porn he was watching.
Right.
Cops are like, yeah, okay, we're going to need more evidence than that, okay? And then when they find out, no, it's true, and he's got child porn on there, then they do the raid. So this wasn't half-cocked in that sense. They investigated before they went in. Oh, okay, so now back to the $2.7 million. Like, what he did to the girls, to his ex-girlfriend, the other ex-girlfriend, is obviously unacceptable. That doesn't need to be said. It put, like, then there's the sex part, yada yada, right? But she mainly got it for the injuries to her knees.
Yeah.
There was not knee replacement surgery or anything. $2.7 million.
I don't care about that amount.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm not begrudging the money she gets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just amazed at the money people make on TV.
Yeah, they make a lot of money. They're constantly, because of their fame and their wealth, I think they're constantly surrounded by people that make them feel entitled, that make them feel like they're above the law. And so, I mean, look, pedophilia is a mental illness, okay? And it's not something that you can cure. It's a difficult thing to deal with. Whenever you have these conversations about it, it's uncomfortable. So he has a mental illness. He has a fetish that's dangerous, and he goes after these kids. And I don't know why I brought that up. I was going to get to a point, but I totally lost my train of thought.
And by the way, there's no allegations that he actually had sex with children.
Right, just child pornography.
Okay. So, look, my last point is this. He has this entitled attitude, and so he thinks, well, I made all this money, what do I care? I'll do this to this girl. I'll give her $2.7 million. Who cares, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll go and watch child porn, and there won't be any consequences. Because if there are, I'll just pay somebody else $2.7 million, and off I go. Well, that's not really how it works. You kind of get arrested, and now you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at. When you're in this bubble where people are constantly making you feel entitled, yeah, you're going to probably break some laws, and you're going to do things that you're not supposed to do, and you're going to think that you'll get away with it. But I'm glad he didn't get away with it, and I'm glad they're investigating it and hopefully prosecuting him. All right.
Go.
All right. A comedian in Los Angeles just revealed that she was in an abusive relationship, but she did so in an unconventional way, or maybe it is conventional for millennials. She shared her experience on Instagram. Now, the relationship ended a while ago. However, she felt the need to disclose what she went through because a lot of her jokes come from her personal experiences, and she had some serious experiences with domestic violence and allegedly rape. So let's go to the post in question. First thing she did, and this is comedian Beth Stelling, is post an image or a number of images of her legs all bruised up, and that was allegedly after she was abused by an ex-boyfriend. She doesn't name the ex-boyfriend, but she does state that a lot of people are going to know who it is because they live in the same area, they have the same mutual friends, and it's going to get exposed.
And they're both public comedians.
Yes.
So it's not going to be hard to piece together.
Exactly. Now here's what she wrote in the caption to that image. She says, "It's embarrassing. I feel stupid. After being verbally, physically abused, and raped, I dated him for 2 more months. It's not simple." She also said, after I broke up with him, he said, "You're very open and honest in your stand-up, and I just ask that you consider me when you talk about your ex because everyone knows who you're talking about." And I abided. I wrote vague jokes because we both live in LA and I didn't want to hurt him, start a war, press charges, be interrogated or harassed by him or his friends and family. Let me just stop right there for a second. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people who are abused by a spouse or a significant other don't come forward and report it to the authorities. Okay? They're afraid of being interrogated. They're afraid of being harassed. I mean, that's what's been happening with the Bill Cosby, victims, and that's what happens to a lot of rape and domestic violence victims. Let me continue. She says, I wanted to move on and forget because I didn't understand. I don't want revenge or to hurt him now, but it's unhealthy to keep this inside because my stand-up is pulled directly from my life. I think it's incredibly courageous for her to share her story. It's her battle, it's her life, and she gets to make a decision as to what she does going forward. If this guy is abusing her or has abused her in the past or has raped her in the past, he's going to do it again. He should be prosecuted.
So, I have my concerns about this story.
Mm-hmm.
And, first of all, more context on her behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So, she says that once she came forward, another ex-girlfriend came by and said she experienced the same thing. She claims that there was two other people who shared their stories of injustices at his hand. I don't know what that means. That's just a word that she used. And I think even more telling than that, there was a great number of comedians who came out on her side.
Yes.
And all said very courageous. If she had been lying, my guess is a lot of comedians who know both of them would go, whoa, what did you just accuse the guy of rape, etc., right? That's crazy.
Can I add something to that? I know a comedian who knows both of them, and I spoke to him extensively about all of this, and he's inclined to believe her. So I
get that at least the people who've come forward and are public about it are on her side. And if the story is true, which again it seems like it is, you can understand why. She went through all that, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to come forward. My reservation is this guy just got convicted in the press of, by the way, rape, let alone abuse, right? Let alone, bruises on the legs, etc. But rape is significantly worse. And we never had a trial. She didn't go to the authorities. She just accused them of rape, and now it's out there.
Yeah.
So I got to be honest. I don't like the way she handled it, and so. Yeah, you guys are right. You can say, oh, easy for you to say. You're right, okay? And I totally understand what she's saying. This is why it's so hard to come forward. I'm not blaming her for coming out 2 months later. I know that that it's conflicted, and all the things that she wrote are what a lot of people feel when they go through this experience. But I just don't think you can do it this way. I don't think it's fair. So
I see your concern.
How's he going to defend himself? How's he going to defend himself?
Yeah.
He's got to come out and say, it's me, but I didn't rape her?
Yeah.
Already you're screwed. I mean, what if he didn't do it? I mean, you see the bruises, right?
Yeah.
So that's okay. Again, you didn't have a trial. You don't know that it was definitely him. Okay, but I'll give you the bruises. Are we positive that he raped her? I'm not positive. That's not fair. So, no, I know that she's getting a lot of accolades, but no, I'm not with that. I think she did it the wrong way.
I think that the way she did it was what makes her the most comfortable, but I think you're right. She created an environment or a situation where it is difficult for him to defend himself because, yeah, he's not going to come forward publicly and let everyone know who he is and say that I haven't done it. But among their friends and the community in Los Angeles, he's already deemed guilty, and that makes the situation difficult. I'm inclined to believe he did it, okay? Which is why I want him to be in court. I want her to take him to court. I want him to be prosecuted. Rape is not a joke. Domestic violence is not a joke. He needs to be behind bars if he did this to her and multiple women as well, in addition to that, right? So it's
Now, he got buried. The more I think about it, the more I'm angry at the way she did it. Okay?
I'm more angry at the fact that if it's true, there are going to be more victims and there'll never be any justice. That's what I'm more angry at.
I know people are going to get mad at me, say, you don't have the right to be angry at the way she did it. Look at what she went through. You didn't go through that. And I swear to you that I understand that. But getting assaulted is one thing, and you got the pictures and a lot of people have your back. Rape is a super, super serious charge. So you can't just be like, oh, by the way, I was raped, and now I'm going to do comedy about it. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up before I did a comedy routine on it. No, if you got raped, you should press charges. And if you're not going to press charges, then you can't throw that out there like willy-nilly. Like, oh, by the way, that guy who you definitely will know who he is in a matter of days raped me. Ha ha. Now I'm going to... No, it's too serious.
It is serious.
It's not just for him, but for rape victims to say, oh, by the way, I wanted to joke around about it, so I just want to let everybody know that guy's a rapist. That guy's a rapist. He's never going to be able to clear his name. Never.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And honestly, I'll go even further. I'm not taking her word on it on the rape. I'm not, because that's what trials are for, right? So if you got raped, it's super serious. You take him to court. And if you didn't, I get it, man. I feel terrible for you. I'm not blaming you on it. I don't know what I would do in that circumstance. So I'm not saying, oh my God, you shouldn't complain about it. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But doing it in a public way, kind of, like, oh, by the way, I just think it's wrong for everybody involved.
Okay, so I want to make my points absolutely clear because I don't agree with you 100%. Okay, and I don't want anyone to think that I do agree with you 100%. Look, I understand why she did it this way. Okay, I don't agree with it, but I understand why she did it. It is really difficult, especially as a woman, and especially as a woman who's a public figure, to come forward and accuse not only an ex-boyfriend, but someone that you have to work with, someone that you have to deal with on a regular basis, because you do the same thing, of rape and assault, right? Because when you do it, people do start questioning you. People do start dragging your name through the mud. They do start interrogating you, and going through a trial for rape, right? Especially if you are accused, yes, but the person who is accusing someone else of rape is a difficult thing to do. It actually elongates the grieving process for a lot of victims. So I get why she did it. But at the same time, I agree with you, he should be sent to court, not only to either prove that he didn't do it, or at least to prove that he did do it, and then he serves time behind bars and there aren't more victims for it. So that's my thing. But
yeah, so look, there's not that much disagreement between us. I'm not here to look into her past and to judge her for what she's done in the past. No, I would never get into that blaming the victim,
right,
etc.
But the disagreement comes from the fact that you're making it seem as though she's like flippant about it. I don't think she's flippant about it. I think the way that she wrote it shows that she was thoughtful and that she has concerns about going forward and reporting this to the authorities.
Okay, then we do disagree on that.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I'm sure that she thought a lot about it. I'm sure she was pained about it. But if you're not willing to file charges, I don't know, just coming out and saying, hey, I'm going to do a comedy sketch about it, so I just wanted to let you know I was raped.
See, I think that's misinterpreting, or at least misrepresenting what she wrote. That's not what she wrote. You're minimizing what she wrote, and that's the part that's getting under my skin right now.
Yeah, but
okay,
what's getting under my skin is
on
the guy's
never
had a chance.
We agree on the heart of that, okay? But at the same time, don't minimize what she wrote as if she's like some valley girl and like, oh my God, I got raped, and I'm going to write about it on social media. That's not the way it came across, and I don't want you to misrepresent it. That's all I'm saying.
You guys can see it for yourself how it came across. So maybe I'm being a jerk in how I'm representing it, but it is literal. Okay, I'll try to not make any voices or anything like that, right? It is literal that she's like, I am going to do comedy routines about this, so I wanted you to know that I got raped.
Okay, that's fair. That is what she wrote. That's fair. I'm totally cool with that.
Okay.
All right, let's take a break.
Back on the Young Turks. Let me read a couple of tweets. This is about the affluenza kid. The other wrestler writes in, Ethan Couch and the affluenza defense are the perfect zeitgeist of this time in America. Exactly right. I mean, the power that the rich have over the rest of us has gotten to literally an absurd point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Ethan Couch case is the height of absurdity. I say it for the millionth time in a row. It's not to demonize all the rich. That's silly. It's not your dentist. It's not this. It's not that, right? But there's some percentage of the population that have rigged the rules on their behalf. You got to unrig them. There's no other way to do it. You got to fix the rules. So Sandra Licious writes in, someone who doesn't understand consequences of their actions and expresses no remorse, don't we usually call that a sociopath? Yep. She also wrote in later about the story we just did on the comedian. She said, we live in a society where women who are raped are made to feel responsible for their own rapes. Sandra, I'm sure that's why she didn't report it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get past that stigma. And maybe it's just that I'm from an old school, but sharing your rape story on Instagram or wherever she shared it, yeah, maybe I'm old. It just seems flippant to me. And I get what you're saying, that it's not flippant. It's her way of sharing it. But it doesn't feel right. It's not just a matter of being old. Anybody could do it to anybody. She might be 1,000% right. But the next time somebody says on Instagram, oh, by the way, my ex-boyfriend raped me, well, that guy's life is fucked, and we never know if it's true or not true.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if he did do it to her, then he should be punished. All right. Anyway, we went through it. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Chelsea Manning.
All right. A recent tweet by Chelsea Manning indicates that she's not necessarily a fan of Caitlyn Jenner. In fact, she had some pretty strong words for Jenner. She wrote, in 2015, Caitlyn Jenner was the Grinch who stole and sold out the trans movement. All I want for Christmas is universal trans liberation. Christmas Eve, 2015. Now, if you're wondering how the hell Chelsea Manning is tweeting from prison, apparently she has someone that she talks to who tweets for her. So that's how that happened. But the criticism isn't necessarily unique. There are many members of the trans community, many members who aren't even in the trans community, who agree with this because Caitlyn Jenner has made a few statements that show just how out of the bubble she is when it comes to trans issues and what they have to face.
Also, otherwise known as human issues.
Yeah.
So, I'm in a bit of an angry mood now, but now I'm even more pissed about Caitlyn Jenner on Ellen DeGeneres' show, saying like, I don't know if gay people should be allowed to call it marriage. Ellen later went on Howard Stern and said, what do you mean? Yeah, that's the word. That's the word we all use. We should have equality. She still doesn't get it, Caitlyn Jenner. She still thinks she's a white male Republican and who hates all the others. Wake up, Caitlyn. You are the other.
Yes, exactly. And also you have, we've said it before, you have unlimited resources to make yourself look feminine, to have whatever surgery you need to be a normal member of society, right? Like the thing that honestly made me turn on her was, yes, the gay marriage statements that she made on Ellen's show, but also when she went on Time magazine and said the following, if you look like a man in a dress, it makes people uncomfortable. Well, you have the resources to do whatever the hell you want with your body to look as feminine as possible, right? Most members of the trans community, most members of the general public don't have the money for the surgeries necessary to look acceptable in public.
She probably feels in her bubble like, well, my Republican male friends now want to have sex with me, so, hey, it's all solved. Right?
She's insulated from reality. And she always has been insulated from reality. So she's unaware of what the trans community is going through. And maybe it's a learning process for her, and I'm open to understanding that. But at the same time, she just continuously makes a mockery of trans issues.
Okay, now on to the more important person in the story, Chelsea Manning. You know that in her Twitter picture that you saw there briefly, she's got short hair. She wants to grow out her hair, but they've got her in a male prison. So she began her transition back in February, which is enormous courage. So she's on top of the 35-year prison sentence she got for speaking the truth about what we did in the Iraq War and that war in Afghanistan. You have to understand the freedoms that get taken away from you. You know that she had the Caitlyn Jenner edition of what is it, Vanity Fair or whatever in her cell because she's a curious person, wants to know what's out in the world. She feels so disconnected. It's like everybody's. She said it. She's like everybody's living their lives. They're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat, and I'm not. So it feels like I don't exist. All of her freedoms have been taken away, and because she had a magazine she wasn't allowed to have, they were going to put her in solitary confinement. They instead relented in their mercy and took away her other privileges, for 3 weeks. So she could only get messages out to the world by dictating it over the phone. Mm-hmm. You can't have magazines. You can't have anything. Otherwise, you go to solitary confinement. You can't grow out your hair. You can't do anything you want. You're still in a male prison. How long are we going to punish her? It's now 6 Christmases that she spent in prison. What drives me crazy is she released a video, the Apache helicopter video, among the other things that she released, that showed our soldiers murdering journalists on the ground. They never got punished. They never got a day in prison. The people who killed journalists, they killed first responders, people coming in to rescue the injured and the people that were originally killed by our soldiers. They killed them. Oh, you're coming to help people? We're going to murder you too. Not one day in prison. Look at the perverse society we have. Everything's upside down. You report that we've done things wrong, you're going to get 35 years in prison. You do anything slightly wrong, you go to solitary confinement. And the things they did to her when they first brought her in, that according to some were torture, right? You're going to get all this if you dare report the truth. Now, if the truth is you murdered someone, you murdered first responders, you murdered journalists, free to go. You're free to go. That's the America we live in. Chelsea Manning, 35 years in prison. Caitlyn Jenner, all the glory in the world. And the paparazzi chasing her down the street. Oh, Caitlyn, what do you think? What do you think, Caitlyn? This is the sick society we live in.
Yep. All right. Yelp reviewers are going after the prosecutor who successfully convicted Stephen Avery of murder, and that is what the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer is all about. Now, if you watch the documentary series on Netflix, which I highly recommend, it's very good, it seems as though Stephen Avery was framed for murder, which is why so many people are upset at prosecutor Ken Kratz. Now, vigilantes are going on his Yelp page, and they're leaving some pretty strongly worded comments on there. Let me give you some examples. One person writes, the one person writes, and this is graphic 28, the lives you have ruined, the law you and your contemporaries completely disregard. You are an absolutely disgusting human being, and what makes me want to vomit the most about you is that you most likely sleep well at night. You, sir, might possibly be a sociopath. You should be the one in jail, so you may not continue to ruin innocent people's lives and wreak havoc upon the justice system. Now, to give you a little bit more context into Stephen Avery, and I'm not giving too much away, he was convicted for a sexual assault that he did not do, and he served 18 years in prison for it, okay? So that's what happened prior to him being convicted for murder. And again, if you watch the documentary, it seems as though he might have been framed.
Okay, so I didn't watch the documentary, and, Ken Kratz says, now wait a minute, they shot hours and hours of footage, and then they only present one side of the story. That's what he's going to say no matter what. He says, they didn't speak to me, so this is unfair. The filmmakers go, no, we asked to speak to you many, many, many times, and you refuse to speak to us. So, now, what I know and what I can comment on is the general trend in America, which drives me crazy, which is, I gotta get ahead. Mm-hmm. Your life was ruined, immaterial to me, mm-hmm. right? So, I got my career to worry about. So, if we wrongly convicted you on the first charge and you spent 18 years, instead of being a human being and thinking, my God, what have we done to this person? How can we make it up for this person? What can I do in my life to give that 18 years back in any way, shape, or form to this person? No, what does the system do instead? That's embarrassing to us. That tweaks my pride a little bit. That tweaks my career a little bit. So let's go crush him. Let's do another injustice upon him and put him away so that he doesn't bother us anymore.
Yeah, you guys have to watch the documentary series. It's so good, and I'm addicted to it. I haven't finished it yet, but the part of it that drove me crazy was when he was initially convicted of a crime he didn't commit. Obviously, the people who worked on that case were embarrassed. And so instead of having a little bit of humility, instead of being a little understanding of the life that you destroyed, they decide, oh, no, let's bury this guy. You know? And they go after him even more aggressively. And look, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this case. It could be true that this documentary omitted important information that does prove that he committed this crime. But the information or the evidence that they provide in the documentary that shows how easily he was framed makes me think that he was framed, right? And it just shows you that if you're powerless, if you don't have the necessary resources to hire the best defense attorney, you're screwed. You're done. There's a two-tier justice system. They want to come after you, they're going to get you, and that's exactly what happened to him.
Okay, so in today's news, Ethan Couch, the guy who killed 4 people after he got unbelievably drunk from beer that he stole, used the defense, I'm so rich, I don't understand the consequence of my action, and it worked. Then he runs away, and then he apparently drinks again, then he runs away to Mexico, grossly violating his probation, and we find out today he might only get 120 days in prison. Maybe, right? And then you have a guy who doesn't have any power and is not rich and hence doesn't have affluenza. Well, sad day for you, we're going to crush you and recrush you until, you're sent off into oblivion. So, again, without commenting on the specifics of this case, I'm guilty, not guilty, I didn't try the case, I didn't see the documentary. But I do know, as a general concept in America, because of all of the stories that we've covered, in real life, over and over again, down in Texas, down in Louisiana, these are specific cases that we covered. We got the wrong guy. So what are we going to do? Well, we're never going to admit it. We're going to spit in his face. We're still going to say he's a murderer. We were still going to say he's this. And we're going to try to find new stuff on him to put him in jail again. It happens again and again and again. And those prosecutors are not ever put in jail, right? Instead, they are rewarded with bigger and better jobs, which is why they did it in the first place. So they could have a better record. So their career could be advanced. I've only seen one prosecutor in all the stories we've ever covered who said, oh my God, I am so sorry. I had no idea. How can I make it up to you?
Yeah.
So there's a great guy, one guy. Everybody else is like, oh yeah, he's probably all those guys. So in one of the cases, dozens upon dozens of cases where they made up evidence and they knew they were making up evidence, right? They never arrested the prosecutor. Never had any consequences. Consequences are for poor people. Consequences are for middle class. Consequences are for the average American. They're not for the powerful. For the powerful, it's always a free ride. So you wonder why the country's sick of it, why we can't stand it anymore, why we're looking for some sort of political revolution. This is why.
Yep. All right.
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
I got to see if I can calm down. All right, we'll be right back. folks. Member shout-outs for you guys. Anthony Conwright is member number 1940, and Suzanne Thone is member number 1737. Today for the members, we're going to lighten it up. We got a great post game for you guys. Anna's got a crazy story about a dinner she attended.
Yeah, about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's I honestly am a little surprised she's going to tell the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not naming names, but it's a good story.
All right. So if you want to become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. Okay, so join us and watch that post game along with us. Obviously, you can get the show anytime you want as well. And if you want to join Wolfpack to help regain our democracy, this is a perfect time to do it. We're trying to get to 500 members by the end of the year for this drive in December. So that's wolf-pack.com/new year. Okay. One tweet for you guys. Leo says that disagreement between Cenk and Anna is why I love the Young Turks. Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, let's go forward.
All right. A new dating site has emerged for those who are in polyamorous relationships or just want to swing and have a little bit of fun. It's called Open Minded, and it's created by the same person behind a lot of different dating sites, which we'll get to in just a second. But Open Minded launched in May, and it seeks to bring the ease and flexibility of online dating to the current underserved world of open relationships. So this is really interesting to me because I always wondered, like, if you're someone who is polyamorous or if you're someone who is into swinging or whatever, like, how do you even approach that? Like,
first of all, you guys all got to come up with better names, okay? Polyamorous, I don't know. It sounds weird to me. Like, it sounds like you're trying too hard. What are you? I'm polyamorous. Okay, dude, whatever. All right, and then swinging sounds funny.
Yeah.
What are you into? I'm into swinging.
But what would you call it?
I don't know. And then there's the guys who don't mind, there's partners having sex. That's the even funnier word, cuckold.
No, it's not that they don't mind their partners having sex. They get turned on by watching their partners.
By the way, don't get me wrong.
Having sex.
Bless your heart on all of them. You guys might be, the swingers, the polyamorous folks are likely right. What does that even mean, right? It means you're more likely to be attuned to the biology of Homo sapiens. Right? We are built to be polyamorous to some degree. I'm just being a goofball by asking for a better name. That's all. Okay, but should the service exist? Absolutely. I'm surprised it took this long. Look, I know that there are other ways that you could have gone and tried to find things, but I feel like all of it is nonsense. Like all the adult friend finders and all that stuff, I feel like that's not true.
This is the thing, like, how the hell do you get involved in that community, right? Because it's becoming less and less taboo, but it's still considered taboo. Let's keep it real. It's not part of the mainstream. And so there's like this underground, like, sex community.
I like the way you move on.
No, but I've always
been in the underground sex community. Maybe that's why they're called swingers.
Right. Like, how do you approach it? Like, it's really interesting to me. So this guy who created this app or online dating site did it for that purpose, to kind of make it easier for people to hook up and connect and meet one another if they're part of this community.
So he's building the Underground Railroad of swingers. He's the Harriet Tubman of swingers.
Yes.
Okay, sorry for doing that. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of terrible. But
that's unacceptable. Okay, I denounce and reject myself and we move forward. So, look, I think since we're not in that community, we don't get it. The reality is that community knows how to find each other super easy. Like in the old days, it used to be the alternative papers. In any city, you'd go and you'd be like, okay, would you like to have sex with my wife? Because I'd like to have sex with your wife. And you would be like, yes.
They would put that in alternative papers?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. My understanding is classifieds, etc., right?
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, and now there are websites for it, and this one's getting good publicity. They're, making a new effort in this direction, but I bet that, I'd almost invest in it. I don't know if I'd do it, but I'd invest in them, right?
Yeah.
Because guess what? This society is going to be more and more polyamorous.
Yeah.
Because look, even at this point, about half of the country, half the kids that are born now in America are born outside of marriage. So, and obviously, the famous roughly 50% divorce rate in the country.
Yep.
So there's that on top of people going, hey, maybe we can stay married, but realize that we're not built to be monogamous.
Yeah, so I had an interview with Chris Ryan about this, and I know you did too, but mine was specifically, like, focused on like how, like the psychology behind having an open relationship and whether or not it really works, all of that. And there's a separation between an emotional connection with someone and then just pure sexual connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing deeper than that emotional connection. You're still going to want to have sex with other people. Everyone's going to want to have sex with other people. It doesn't matter how much you love your significant other, your wife, your husband, whatever. You want sex with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's okay. The question is, how do you overcome the jealousy? How do you, I mean, it's not okay in my relationship, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, of course, that's the problem.
And no matter how open-minded I try to be, as soon as I think about it in my context, I feel like the most intense rage I've ever felt in my life.
In Inside Out, you'd be angry about, and you're dressed that way.
Yeah, totally.
Your head exploded.
Yes.
And so that's our problem. Jealousy. We can't get rid of the jealousy, right? Because otherwise, it's the easiest thing in the world. Look, for my whole life, I've been debating people about whether you have to have some sort of emotion involved in sex. And anyone who says it, I reject you. Okay, you're not. What you're saying is not true. Okay, so now here's what I mean by that. If you view sex as purely an act of love and you view it as completely emotional, I'm not saying you're wrong about that. That's how you view it and how you feel about it. Of course, that's perfectly fine to think that from your perspective. If you think everybody feels that way, you are wrong, okay? I have had sex with women I did not care about at all. I have had sex with women I dislike and like that sex sometimes better, okay? So you want to judge me? Have at it, Hoss. But you're only judging me because you think your perspective is correct, and I'm here to call bullshit on that. I loved having sex with those women. So you can go ahead and #suck it, okay? So you can tell me your perspective and go monogamous like crazy. Now the ironic thing here is I'm monogamous, okay? But I chose it. Do you see what I'm saying? Don't put your values on me. I get to do whatever I want, and I get to feel whatever I want during sex. So you're going to come into my head and be like, no, feel love, be monogamous. Yeah, all right. Piss off. I'm in the middle of sex. So that's my view on it. But as it turns out, I love my wife, and we have a wonderful relationship, and we're super happy this way. Great! That was a choice I made. So, but if you won't make the choice of being, I feel goofy every time I say polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be in that community, have at it, Hoss. And anybody who judges you, I got your back.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to do one more. So we got to do one more story. Because we got to end on a cute note. And this story's going to take, 1 minute?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, this is too cute to deny.
All right. A baby tries bacon for the first time. Check out his reaction.
Go.
Baga!
Bacon!
Baga!
Bacon!
Baga! Baga! Over here! Baga!
That kid is me. That kid speaks for all good Americans.
It's amazing how many people love bacon. Like, it's amazing.
Because it's God's food. So, and appropriately enough, that was his first taste of bacon on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
That's why he's in that cute little pajamas. He said, my favorite part is not the bacon, although a lot of us have felt that. My favorite part is that when he's enjoying food, he does the same thing I do, which is,
He had like a cute little chuckle in the beginning too. Like he tasted it, he just like chuckled a little bit too.
like, oh.
That's my favorite part.
Baga!
MAGA! MAGA! Part of the reason why I'm against religion. Any religion that doesn't allow you to have that experience can't be right.
True.
All right. In the post game for the members, Anna's crazy dinner story. TYTnetwork.com/join. Bye-bye.